Have you ever made a decision that just felt like you had to make it at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but it's haunted you ever since,
Oh, yeah.
with consequences that just rippled way beyond your control?
Right.
That's the kind of story we're diving into today. Story of Pontius Pilate.
Okay.
He was a Roman prefect of Judea, and he found himself facing an impossible choice.
Right.
And it ultimately defined his legacy for millennia to come.
Yeah, what's captivating about Pilate's story is that it isn't just like some dry historical account.
Right.
We're talking about a man whose actions like reverberate through history, shaping religious beliefs, inspiring countless works of art and literature.
Exactly.
And as you've given us such a wealth of sources, biblical and non-biblical texts, we even have archaeological finds. We have a rare opportunity here to piece together a really a multifaceted picture of this enigmatic figure.
It's like we're like conducting a historical investigation.
Yeah.
We're sifting through the evidence to determine whether Pilate was like a ruthless tyrant or a tragic pawn of the Roman Empire, or maybe something in between.
Yeah, and to truly grasp like the weight of his decisions, we need to understand the world he operated in. First century Judea.
Okay.
Under Roman rule.
Right.
It was a crucible of tension. You have religious fervor and political ambition and cultural clashes all colliding.
Wow. So imagine yourself in Pilate's shoes.
Right.
You're a Roman governor.
Right.
You're tasked with keeping order in this volatile province.
Yes.
Judea had come under direct Roman rule just a few years before Pilate arrived. A relatively new addition to the empire.
Right.
How would you even approach this assignment?
Well, from Rome's perspective, their presence in Judea was all about bringing peace and stability to a region that was, plagued by internal conflicts.
Right.
But for many Judeans, Roman rule was seen as an unwelcome intrusion, a threat to their cultural and religious identity.
And that tension is palpable in so many of the sources we have.
Oh, absolutely.
Even the location of the Roman administrative center. It speaks volumes,
Yes.
Instead of Jerusalem, the heart of Jewish life, they chose Caesarea Maritima.
Right.
A coastal city known for its more Roman-friendly atmosphere.
Caesarea boasted a temple dedicated to Roman gods, a diverse population.
Wow.
And a really strategic port that facilitated trade and communication with Rome.
I see.
For someone like Pilate, steeped in Roman culture,
right,
accustomed to the grandeur of imperial cities, Jerusalem may have felt like a different world.
Almost like he was commuting to a job he didn't particularly enjoy.
Right, exactly.
Especially considering he only ventured to Jerusalem for major events, like Jewish feasts, which were potential hotspots for unrest or for legal judgments.
Those visits must have been quite the spectacle.
Yeah.
Imagine the logistical challenges of transporting Roman troops through the Judean countryside.
Right.
The heightened security measures to prevent riots.
Of course.
The palpable tension between the occupying force and the local population.
Talk about a stressful work environment.
It really was.
And it's against this backdrop of simmering resentment that the story of Jesus unfolds.
Yes.
Placing Pilate at the center of a pivotal event that would shape the course of history.
The Gospels are primary sources for the trial and crucifixion of Jesus.
Okay.
They offer different perspectives on Pilate's role, but it's important to remember that they were written decades after the events.
Right.
And with the purpose of spreading the Christian message.
So they might not be the most objective historical accounts.
Exactly. They offer valuable insights, but we need to consider their theological agendas and the historical context in which they were written.
I see.
For instance, the Gospel of Mark, believed to be the earliest of the four, portrays a somewhat passive Pilate, pressured by the Jewish crowd to condemn Jesus.
Given that Mark was likely written shortly after the First Jewish-Roman War, a devastating conflict that resulted in the destruction of the Second Temple in Jerusalem.
Yes.
This portrayal might reflect anxieties about further Roman reprisals against the Jewish community.
Precisely. By subtly shifting the blame away from Roman authorities, Mark might have been trying to protect early Christians from persecution. Matthew, on the other hand, adds a unique element to the story. The famous scene where Pilate washes his hands, proclaiming his innocence in the death of Jesus.
Ah, yes, the iconic line, "I am innocent of this man's blood, see to it yourselves."
Yeah.
It's a powerful image.
It is, and it introduces a layer of personal responsibility that's absent in Mark's account. By washing his hands, Pilate symbolically attempts to distance himself from the decision,
Right.
suggesting that the Jewish crowd bears the true burden of guilt.
And then we have Luke, who adds another layer of complexity by introducing a trial before Herod Antipas,
Yes.
the ruler of Galilee. Right.
It's almost as if Luke is meticulously building a case for Jesus' innocence.
Yes.
By presenting him before multiple authority figures.
Indeed, and each of those figures reacts differently,
Okay.
adding nuances to the narrative.
I see.
Finally, John's Gospel takes a more philosophical approach,
Okay.
presenting a Pilate who engages in theological debates with Jesus,
Right.
pondering the very nature of truth,
What is truth?
a question that echoes through the ages.
Absolutely. It highlights the complexities of Pilate's position.
It does.
He's not just a political figure enforcing Roman law.
Mm-hmm.
He's a man grappling with existential questions.
Right.
Forced to make a decision with profound consequences. So, just from the Gospels alone, we see a range of portrayals.
Yes.
From a passive figure manipulated by the crowd to a philosophical soul wrestling with his conscience.
And that's just the beginning. To delve deeper into the enigma of Pontius Pilate, we need to venture beyond the canonical Gospels
Okay.
and explore a fascinating array of non-biblical sources.
These texts, written later and often with different agendas, offer alternative perspectives on Pilate's character and his role in the events surrounding Jesus' crucifixion.
It's like we're peeling back layers of an onion here,
Yeah,
revealing more and more complexity with each news source we examine.
absolutely.
And speaking of these non-biblical sources,
Right.
they offer a whole new set of perspectives on Pilate, don't they?
They do indeed. Take, for instance, the Acts of Pilate,
Okay.
a text that emerged later in Christian tradition.
Right.
It paints a remarkably different picture of Pilate compared to the Gospels.
Yeah.
Here, he's portrayed as sympathetic to Jesus,
Okay.
almost a believer himself.
Wow.
We even encounter fantastical elements,
Like what?
like Roman standards bowing down before Jesus.
It almost sounds like a work of historical fiction,
Mm-hmm.
designed to sway public opinion in favor of Christianity.
That's a very astute observation.
Thanks.
Remember, as Christianity spread throughout the Roman Empire, there was a need to reconcile this new faith with existing power structures.
Okay.
Portraying Pilate, a Roman official, as sympathetic to Jesus
Right.
might have helped ease tensions and make Christianity more palatable to a Roman audience.
It's a fascinating example of how history can be rewritten
Right.
and reinterpreted to serve different purposes.
Exactly.
But luckily, we also have accounts from individuals who weren't directly invested in the Jesus narrative.
Right. Philo of Alexandria,
Okay.
a Jewish philosopher,
Hmm.
writing around the time of Pilate's governorship,
Okay.
offers a glimpse into Pilate's administrative style.
Okay.
And it's not particularly flattering.
Oh.
He recounts an incident where Pilate placed shields honoring the emperor in his Jerusalem headquarters.
All those infamous shields.
Yes.
It seems like a classic case of a Roman official
Yeah.
completely misreading the cultural sensitivities of the people he was governing.
Indeed, the shields, with their Roman imagery
Right.
and potential association with emperor worship, were seen as a grave offense to Jewish religious sensibilities.
Yeah.
This incident led to protests, unrest,
Wow.
and even a reprimand from Emperor Tiberius himself.
It sounds serious.
Philo paints Pilate as stubborn, insensitive to Jewish customs,
Okay.
and perhaps even a bit arrogant in his disregard for local beliefs.
Quite a contrast to the sympathetic figure we see in the Acts of Pilate.
Yes, very much so.
It makes you wonder if these contrasting portrayals reflect different facets of Pilate's personality,
Right.
or simply serve the agendas of those writing about him.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And it gets even more complicated when we bring in another prominent historian, Josephus,
Okay.
who wrote his account after the Jewish War.
Okay.
He provides several anecdotes about Pilate's actions, often depicting him as provocative and insensitive to Jewish sensitivities,
Okay.
but ultimately willing to back down to avoid major unrest.
So perhaps a pragmatist,
It's possible.
someone who understood the need to maintain order, but wasn't afraid to push the boundaries to assert Roman authority.
That's a plausible interpretation.
Okay.
Josephus describes, for example, Pilate's attempt to bring military standards bearing the emperor's image into Jerusalem,
Right.
which ignited fierce opposition from the Jewish populace.
Yeah.
In the end, Pilate relented, recognizing that his actions could spark a full-blown rebellion.
It seems like he was constantly walking a tightrope.
Yeah.
Trying to balance Roman interests with the realities of governing a resentful population.
He was in a very difficult position.
But, as you mentioned earlier, these historical accounts, while valuable, are filtered through the lenses of their authors' perspectives and agendas.
Of course.
To get a more objective view of Pilate, we need to turn to something more tangible, more concrete. Archaeology.
Absolutely. And thankfully, archaeology has provided us with some fascinating clues about Pontius Pilate.
Okay.
Perhaps the most compelling piece of evidence is the Pilate stone, an inscription discovered in Caesarea Maritima that unequivocally confirms his governorship of Judea.
A physical piece of history etched with his name.
It is.
Talk about a direct connection to the past.
It's remarkable.
It's almost like having Pilate's signature on a historical document.
Precisely. And this inscription isn't just a name.
Okay.
It reveals details about his official title and his role in constructing a building dedicated to Tiberius.
I see.
It helps solidify his place in history and offers a glimpse into his administrative activities.
Beyond the inscription, we also have coins minted during Pilate's time.
Yes, some feature typical Roman religious imagery, while others depict symbols of Judean agriculture.
Okay.
Perhaps an attempt to appease both sides of the cultural divide.
It seems like he was trying to walk a fine line.
Yes.
Balancing his Roman identity with the need to maintain some level of peace in his province.
Indeed, and there's more.
Okay.
Recent archaeological discoveries have uncovered evidence of a road and aqueduct system constructed during Pilate's administration.
Those are significant findings.
They are.
Building roads and aqueducts requires considerable resources and planning. Suggesting that Pilate was engaged in long-term development initiatives.
It adds a whole new dimension to his legacy, doesn't it?
It does.
And we even have a small personal touch.
Why?
A ring inscribed with Pilato.
Wow.
That might have belonged to someone within his administration.
These archaeological discoveries paint a picture of a complex figure.
Yes.
A Roman administrator who was both a powerful enforcer of imperial authority and someone who engaged in projects that benefited the local population.
It seems like every piece of evidence we uncover adds another layer to this intricate puzzle.
It really does.
But there's one piece of the puzzle that remains frustratingly elusive: Pilate's ultimate fate.
Yeah, what happened to him?
Well, Josephus tells us that Pilate was recalled to Rome to face charges.
Okay.
After a violent incident involving a Samaritan messianic figure.
I see.
He arrived in Rome just as Emperor Tiberius died, leaving his fate shrouded in uncertainty.
It's almost poetic, isn't it?
It is.
A man whose life was defined by ambiguity and difficult choices. Disappears from the historical record with no clear resolution.
It is, and this lack of a definitive ending only adds to the mystique surrounding Pontius Pilate.
Right.
But while his personal story might end abruptly, his legacy continues to resonate throughout history.
Right.
Evolving and transforming as different cultures and eras grapple with his actions and their implications.
It's fascinating how a figure like Pilate, shrouded in such historical ambiguity, can become a canvas for such a wide range of interpretations.
It is.
It speaks to the enduring power of his story and its ability to resonate across cultures and time periods.
Exactly. Even centuries after his disappearance from the historical record, Pilate continues to captivate our imaginations. In some Christian traditions, particularly in the Eastern Orthodox Church, he's even venerated as a saint.
A saint.
Alongside his wife, Procula.
That's quite a transformation for the man who sentenced Jesus to death.
It is.
What led to this unexpected elevation to sainthood?
Well, remember that some early Christian writings, like the Acts of Pilate, portrayed him as sympathetic to Jesus, even suggesting a degree of belief.
I see.
Couple that with the gospel account of his wife's dream and his own attempt to wash his hands of the matter. And you have a foundation for the image of a conflicted figure. A reluctant participant in a tragic event.
So, for some, he became a symbol of someone caught between their duty and their conscience.
Exactly.
A man who ultimately recognized the injustice of his actions, but felt powerless to prevent them.
Precisely. And this interpretation found fertile ground in certain branches of Christianity, where Pilate's internal struggle became a metaphor for the complexities of faith and the human condition.
But while some elevated him to sainthood, Others viewed him as a cautionary tale, a symbol of weak-willed authority.
Absolutely. And this interpretation is perhaps most vividly captured in Mikhail Bulgakov's novel The Master and Margarita, set in Stalinist Russia.
Right.
Bulgakov reimagines the encounter between Pilate and Jesus from Pilate's perspective, delving into the psychological torment of a man who knows he's made the wrong choice, but feels trapped by the pressures of power and politics.
It's a powerful exploration of themes that resonate deeply with anyone who's ever faced a moral dilemma.
It is.
Especially in a society where challenging authority can have dire consequences.
Indeed, Bulgakov's Pilate becomes a universal symbol of the compromises we sometimes make.
Yeah.
The choices that haunt us long after the moment has passed.
And of course, we can't forget the more lighthearted interpretations of Pilate,
Right.
particularly in popular culture.
Yeah.
I can't help but think of the classic Biggest Dickus scene from Monty Python's Life of Brian.
Ah, yes, a brilliant example of British humor using satire to poke fun at authority figures. While comedic, that scene also touches on a real historical challenge Roman governors faced. The clash of cultures.
Right. Imagine being a Roman official accustomed to the customs and social structures of the empire, suddenly thrust into a province like Judea with its own complex religious and cultural norms.
It must have felt like navigating a completely different world.
It must have.
And in that context, misunderstandings, misinterpretations, and perhaps even a touch of ridicule were almost inevitable.
So we have Pilate the saint, Pilate the tragic figure, and Pilate the comedic foil.
We do.
It's a testament to the enduring power of his story that it can accommodate such a diverse range of interpretations.
And it's a reminder that history is not just about dry facts and dates.
Right.
It's about human stories, about individuals wrestling with choices, consequences, and the complexities of their time.
So after this deep dive into the world of Pontius Pilate,
yes,
what do you make of him? Was he a tyrant who ruthlessly enforced Roman rule?
Yeah.
A tragic figure caught in the gears of history?
Yeah.
Or perhaps a pragmatist who tried to navigate a challenging situation with the tools at his disposal?
We've presented the evidence, the conflicting accounts, the archaeological discoveries, and the diverse interpretations.
That's a lot to consider.
Now it's your turn to weigh the information.
Okay.
Consider the nuances and draw your own conclusions.
History, as we've seen, is rarely black and white.
It rarely is.
It's a tapestry woven from diverse threads.
Yes.
And it's up to each of us to interpret the patterns we see.
And perhaps, as we continue to explore the past, new evidence will emerge, shedding further light on the enigmatic Pontius Pilate and the world he inhabited.
But for now, we've reached the end of our deep dive.
We have.
We hope you've enjoyed this journey into the heart of Roman Judea, a world of clashing empires, religious fervor, and enduring questions about power, justice, and the choices that shape our destinies.
And if this exploration has sparked your curiosity about other figures and events from history, let us know. We're always eager to embark on new deep dives, uncovering the hidden stories that connect us to our past and illuminate our present.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the fascinating world of history.